Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are almost done with this season of the Cardfight Vanguard Divinez anime. And I really want to get into this episode because we're finishing off the fight between Kuon and Sybil. And of course, we're jumping right into the protagonist fight. So we're going to cover this episode, talk about what happened, see if we can't figure out what some of these cards did. And yeah, if you enjoyed this type of video, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's jump in and get started. So this episode takes off right where the last one ended, which was Sybil riding Varga Dragres Rakshasa. I'm not going to try and pronounce that first name because I can't. I've tried. Drek forget it. As I said, it goes right into it, and immediately as soon as Sybil plays Rakshasa, she starts talking a little bit of shit to Kuon. She doesn't really do much on her turn up until the battle phase. She tells us that this counts as a persona ride, so her front row gains 10k, and then all she does is she calls an Obdurasi Glaive Dragon. She doesn't play any other cards. Sybil then attacks with Rakshasa, and we get to finally learn Rakshasa's skill. So Rakshasa's skill is extremely similar to Varga Dragres. All she did was she swung, counterblasted one, gave her Vanguard 10k, and retired the front row. If you guys remember, Obdurasi Glaive can't be retired by your Vanguard skill with Varga. So Kuon doesn't guard. Sybil gets a critical trigger on her twin drive and gives both effects to Rakshasa, so Kuon now takes 2 damage. At the end of the battle, we get to see the difference between Varga and Rakshasa. So normally, Varga Dragres, you attack, you counterblast one, you retire the front row, he gets 10k. After the battle, he restands. In the case of Rakshasa, Rakshasa does the same thing, except when Rakshasa goes to restand, Rakshasa also retires both players' back rows. And that is a huge difference because that means that you can wipe your opponent's entire board every turn with this card. And some decks can't recover from a -5. So Sybil retires both players' back rows, and then we get to see her use Storm Slasher again. So if you guys remember in the last episode, Storm Slasher was the new card. We didn't get much info on it. I'm assuming still that its cost is an Energy Blast, but she retires it with Rakshasa's skill, and then it immediately calls itself back to the back row rested. But apparently, if she is in Malworm state, Storm Slasher stands. Malworm being this pseudo persona state that she is in when she rode Rakshasa over Varga Dragres. So Storm Slasher stands, and now she has a new booster to swing with Rakshasa's second attack. So Rakshasa attacks again. This one Kuon guards. And then Sybil uses Rakshasa's divine skill, which is Varga Dragres' divine skill. They don't say it quite like they did with Levidros Imperio, where, you know, Levidros Imperio gained the divine skill from having Levidros in the soul. So I'm wondering if Rakshasa is going to be a little bit different. We'll find out this week coming. But she ends up restanding with +2 drive checks, swings again. Kuon attempts to guard, and Sybil gets a critical on the drive check and pushes through Kuon's guard. So the damage is 6-5, and this game ends with Sybil, of course, winning. We knew this was going to happen because we knew we had to have, you know, the protagonist fight. Now, my mistake, I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, we're going to be jumping right into the next fight. Same thing with this fight. At the beginning of their turn, let's just assume that they draw. I say it in every video, and assume that they energy charge. They don't expressively say it, but it does happen. So now, with this fight done, we actually see that Rakshasa absorbs Levidros' design force. Kuon's he's all done. He apologized to the Destined Ones. He actually almost passes out, and Suo's there to catch him. Suo catches him. They have a nice little. He looks up to Suo, and Suo's like, "Don't worry, let him take care of the rest." And then all of the Faded Ones show up. Now, as Akina closes in to go and fight Sybil, we get a flashback of him and Future Hikari. It turns out that him and Future Hikari were on the beach, you know, talking. And it turns out now that she no longer has Sybil inside of her, she's disappearing. Apparently, Sybil was basically holding Future Hikari together, and that she's the reason that Future Hikari didn't fade away immediately after, you know, Akina's fate had changed. And Akina, of course, wants to save Future Hikari. That's still his sister, even though it's a sister from a different timeline. So Future Hikari tries to, like, no, listen, you gotta go worry about Sybil. Go worry about winning this fight, save now, and then we'll figure out a way to save me. So it'd probably be cool if they're probably going to use the design force to save her. That'd be pretty cool. At least that's what I think is going to happen. But we'll see. But now we jump to the fight. Not a whole lot happens in this episode besides the two fights. So we get a little bit of trash talking between Akina and Sybil. You know, we love that. And we jump into the fight. Of course, their stars are still the same. Akina's got Wings of Aspiration Soul. Sybil's got Heated Blade Ardheart. That has not changed basically the whole series. But Sybil actually goes first, and Sybil rides Blaze Ember Dragon and immediately ends her turn. Turn 2 is Akina. Akina rides Patrol of Gus Ventesta, calls a Gargaon. Akina attacks with Ventesta. Sybil doesn't guard. Akina doesn't get a trigger, so Sybil takes 1 damage. Akina then attacks with Gargaon. Sybil guards, turns over. Damage is now 0-1 with Akina in the lead. Turn 3, Sybil rides Boulder Axe Dragon. Sybil uses Blaze Ember Dragon skill. So that's auto when this unit is run upon by Boulder Axe Dragon. You can call this card to rearguard, Soul Charge 1. She also calls the new card Storm Slasher. I'm assuming again it's Storm Slasher Dragon, but Sybil attacks with Blaze Ember Dragon. Akina doesn't guard, he takes 1 damage. Sybil attacks with Boulder Axe Dragon. Akina guards with a critical trigger. And then Sybil attacks with Storm Slasher. Akina guards with another critical trigger. So he's making sure to guard with his critical triggers early so that way he can send them back with Raziel's Divine Skill. That's a common strategy that he uses in the anime. But right now the damage is 1-1, it's even, and we're going into turn 4. This turn, Akina rides Knight of Great Advance Ascensior and uses Ventesta skill. Ventesta has the same skill as Blaze Ember Dragon. When it's rolled on by Ascensior, call it to rearguard, Soul Charge 1. Akina then moves his Gargaon back and calls Knight of Bowstreaks Nobiris and Knight of Gentle Beauty Nobia. So he basically filled up his board. Akina attacks with Ascensior. Sybil doesn't guard. Akina gets a draw trigger on his drive check and gives the power to Nobia and draws a card. Sybil takes 1 damage. Akina attacks with Nobiris. Sybil doesn't guard, takes another damage, and then Akina attacks with Nobia. This one Sybil guards. The turn ends. The damage is now 1-3. Akina is in the lead. Turn 5, Sybil rides the Fated One of Unparalleled Varga Dragres. It's about that time. Sybil uses Boulder Axe Dragon skill. Boulder Axe Dragon says when it's rolled upon by a grade 3 Varga in its card name, call it to the rear guard. Sybil also calls Monk of Raging Flames Kofu to boost Storm Slasher. Sybil attacks with Storm Slasher first. Akina guards. Sybil attacks with Boulder Axe and uses Boulder Axe's skill. Auto rearguard when this unit attacks a Vanguard. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Varga in its card name, this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of that battle. At the end of that battle, retire this unit, draw a card. Akina guards and intercepts with both of his intercepts for this attack. Now, after the battle, now draws a card. Remember, Varga Dragres retires the front row, so Akina is making sure to use his front row while he can. Now attacks with Varga Dragres and activates its skill. Auto Vanguard once per turn. When this unit attacks Counter Blast 1, retire all of your and your opponent's front row rear guards. This unit gets 10,000 power until the end of turn. At the end of the battle, stand this unit. It gets drive -2 until end of turn. And upon retiring the front row, Sybil activates the skill of Storm Slasher Dragon. If you guys don't remember, Storm Slasher Dragon calls itself to the back row at rest after it's been retired by your Varga Vanguard's skill. I'm still assuming that's going to be an energy cost, but we don't know because again they didn't keep track of the energy. Akina doesn't guard the Vanguard attack, and Sybil does get a critical, giving it all effects to the Vanguard. Akina takes 2 damage, and then Sybil restands with Varga's skill and attacks. This one, Akina guards with a perfect guard, and the turn ends. The damage is now 3-3, so they're even. Turn 6, Akina rides the Fated One of Miracles, Raziel, and he uses Ascensior's skill. Auto, when the unit is rode upon by a grade 3 Raziel in its card name, choose up to 1 a grade 2 or less card from your drop and call it to rearguard. Akina calls Nobia with the skill and uses Nobia's skill. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Raziel in its card name, Counterblast 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 grade 3 or less card from among them, call it to rearguard, and put the rest to the bottom of your deck in any order. If it's your battle phase, though, you reveal the card you're at and you add it to your hand instead of calling it. Akina calls another copy of Nobiris and then uses Raziel's Divine Skill. So Raziel's Divine Skill is a Soul Blast 1. You return all your critical triggers from your drop back to your deck and you shuffle. And then this unit gets triple job until end of turn. And then until the end of the fight, you cannot ride any other units besides Raziel units. And when your damage check reveals a trigger, other than a heal, if you have your damage zone has 5 or more cards, you choose a card from your damage zone and you heal it. That's, Raziel's Miracle. Akina moves to his battle phase and attacks with Noberis. Sybil guards. Akina uses Noberis' skill. Noberis, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Raziel on its card name, Energy Blast 3, put this card into Soul, draw a card, look at the top card of your deck, put it to the top or bottom of your deck. This one he puts on top of his deck. That matters for his drive checks. Akina then attacks with Raziel and uses Raziel's skill. It's normal skill, not its divine skill. Auto Vanguard, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, Counterblast 1, choose up to 2 cards from your drop with different grades and a total grade less than or equal to the number of cards in your damage on and call them to rear card. Akina calls another copy of Noberis and a Painkiller Angel behind his Nobia. Sybil guards with a perfect guard on the Vanguard. Akina does get a heal trigger. Heals 1 damage, gives the power to Noberis. He also gets a critical trigger, giving both effects to Nobia. Akina attacks Sybil with Nobia. Sybil guards with the perfect guard, so now they shut down that attack too. And then Akina attacks with Noberis. This one Sybil doesn't guard, and then again Akina uses Noberis' skill, drawing, putting it to Soul, drawing a card, getting to peek the top card of his deck. But this one time he puts it on the bottom. So the damage at the end of this turn is actually 2 to 4, with Akina in the lead because of that heal trigger. Turn 7, Sybil uses Malworm. This is her Persona ride with Rakshasa. So this is what she did. This is the state she was talking about when she did it to Levidras and Kuon. It's basically like a Persona ride without calling it a Persona ride. We get a nice shot of the field over their shoulders. We get to see a quick board state before we go into the rest of her turn. Her front row obviously gets 10k from the Persona ride. Sybil then calls Twin Pulsive Dragon and uses its skill. This is a kind of newer card. I like this card. Auto, when this unit is placed on a rear guard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Varga in its card name, Energy Blast 3, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 grade 2 or less card from among them, call it to rear guard and shuffle the deck. Sybil calls Boulder Axe Dragon off of this skill, and then she goes to her battle phase. She attacks with Twin Pulsive Dragon. Akina guards it. Sybil then attacks with Boulder Axe Dragon, uses its skill, gains 5k power. Akina guards it and uses his intercepts because he knows his front row is about to go bye-bye. Sybil uses Boulder Axe to draw. And then Sybil attacks with Rakshasa and uses its skill. Remember, we talked about Rakshasa's skill at the beginning of this video, where it's Counterblast 1, retire both players front row, gains 10k. Sybil retires Twin Pulsive Dragon and uses its second skill. Auto, when this unit is retired from rearguard by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Varga in its card name, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets 5,000 power till end of turn. So between the Persona ride, the plus 10k from Varga's skill, and the 5k from Twin Pulsive, Rakshasa's already sitting at 38, and that's not even counting the booster. But Akina doesn't guard this attack. Sybil gets a draw trigger on her twin drive, gives the 10k to Rakshasa, draws the extra card. Akina takes 1 damage, so now he's at 3. Sybil uses the second half of the skill, retiring both players' back rows and standing Rakshasa -2 drive. She then also combos it with Storm Slasher, calling itself back behind Rakshasa, and then of course, because she's now in Malworm, it restands. Sybil now attacks again with the boost. Akina doesn't guard, takes 1 damage. Now Akina's at 4, so Sybil used Rakshasa's divine skill. So Rakshasa's divine skill, I'm assuming, is the exact same as Varga's, you know, the same restriction, 4 damage, Counterblast 1. We don't get to see her damage for the rest of this episode. And she never announces that her opponent need to be at 4, but I'm just assuming that's why they let him go to 4. But she restands again with +2 drive. She attacks. Akina doesn't guard. Mind you, he's at 4. And Sybil hits her over trigger. Now, mind you, she's using the Dragon Empire over trigger, which is actually bad in Varga. Because of the interaction with Varga and the over trigger. If you swing with Varga, use Varga's skill, and you hit the over trigger on your first twin drive, you will restand, but you already gave yourself -2 drive for the second half of that because you already activated the skill. So you'll get to restand off Dragres, but you won't get to get any drive checks, and you end up losing out on an attack. It's a really annoying interaction, but she got it at the best possible time at the end of her divine skill, so she gets to keep twin drive and restand. Akina takes 1 damage. He actually hits his over trigger as well, basically canceling the damage out. So now they both have plus 100 million power. Sybil swings with Rakshasa again for the 4th time this turn. Akina doesn't take it. This time Sybil hits a draw trigger and a critical trigger and gives, of course, everything to Varga. So Akina ends up taking 2 damage. Akina takes a damage, gets nothing. His second damage check is a critical trigger. And remember, he used Raziel's divine skill as soon as he went into Raziel. So now he miracle heals because of Raziel's miracle, and now he gets another turn. So now turns over, the damage is 5-4 with Sybil in the lead. Turn 8. Akina Persona rides. He says that Persona rides the fated king of miracles, Raziel Vita. And unfortunately, we do not get to see much of Vita. We get this Vita appears looking majestic, and we get to see Akina's main phase. We find out that Vita gains 5k for every copy of Raziel in the soul, though he doesn't specify fated one of miracles Raziel. He just says for every Raziel in the soul, so I wonder if it also counts Vita. Akina calls a Nobia from hand, uses its skill, checks top 3, actually calls another Nobia, uses its skill, checks top 3, calls an aerial sage from the top 3, and then from his hand calls Knight of Perspicad. I'm just gonna skip the title. It's Catelis. I can't pronounce that. And uses its skill basically to give an extra 5k to one of his Nobias. It's auto when this unit is placed on rear guard. If you have a grade 3 Greater Vanguard Raziel in its card name, choose one of your units and it gets 5k until the end of turn. And if it was placed by your Vanguard's ability, it gets 10k instead of 5k. And then we get one final shot of Raziel Vita and Rakshasa squaring up because they're about to go into what's probably the final battle phase, and then the episode ends. So unfortunately, while we as viewers know that it's a card game anime, the main character's going to win, we have to wait till next week to actually wrap this season up. It's been one hell of a season. We've had a lot of great reveals, a lot of cool stuff to mess with. My opinions of Rakshasa. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want to play it. For anybody that doesn't know, I played Varga Dragres when it first came out, and I actually took it to a Bushiroad Springfest. And while the deck is good, because of its linear playstyle and playing it all day with ups and downs, I actually lost interest in the deck. It wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted a Vanguard Secretary deck, but I wanted more board control than Varga was giving me. And now we have a Varga that's not only a Vanguard centric deck, but it retires the entire board. I literally couldn't believe they did that. So I might be picking Varga back up. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think of Rakshasa. Let me know how you guys felt about the episode, the end for my boy Kuon, and of course the matchup with Akina so far. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links will be down below. If you guys want to see me play some Vanguard live, I stream over on Twitch or right here on YouTube. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on the last episode, be back here next week. But that is it from me. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.